following on the 2011 pilgrimage, Joshua had never really shared anything about what had happened and how massive the event was of the portal opening, beginning the joining of heaven and earth. He hadn't mentioned it until 2016, just before our pilgrimage to Santa Fe, in which he said there will be a massive opening, a similar kind of opening. But massive was the word he used. It came through a vision, the only kind I've ever had like that. And so I find myself in Santa Fe, having been to the land one day, but now returning to the land the second day with someone who was representing the Shiny Cristo Foundation, people who are safeguarding the land, holding the land in trust. And their relationship with JM, the channel of the material, has been split, and we're hoping that this will be a rejoining, a healing of that split in this weekend. And I know I'm being asked to go back to the land with Chuck, and someone comes over to me at breakfast the second day and says, hey, Chuck wants to take people to the land. Do you want to go? And I go, yes. But in order to get, and I have a hope for a day of peace, but in order to go, I have to go back to my hotel, which is just down the street, and come back, get my stuff. So as I go out, I'm coming back to the Hotel Santa Fe, and I come in, and on the fence, there's a fence next to the swimming pool, kind of a wooden fence as you come in the side entrance. And I noticed this dove. It may have been a pigeon, but it's white. And it looks to me like a dove or a pigeon, but it's white. And I've never seen one before in Santa Fe, or maybe, I don't know how often I've seen one anywhere. And it's standing right on the fence, and I go, oh, wow, that's so cool. It's like a white dove, This is a day of peace I'm hoping for. So as I walk up to it, I'm thinking, well, this thing's about at eye level. I mean, it's going to fly away. And it doesn't. It doesn't fly away. I get to be within just a short distance of it. And instead of flying away, it hops along the fence to keep up with me. So we're just like going along the fence together. And I'm like, this is wild. And then when I get right up to the front of the hotel, it flies in front of me and flies around me. That was pretty cool. Like I like to see this as a blessing, a sign. So we go off to the land, and several other beings, several people back at the hotel, I didn't mention this to anybody, had dreams or wrote poems about doves that day, about white doves. And this was not, again, we're not talking about this. I'm having an internal thought process about this, but I'm not talking about it with anybody. We're not even really talking about peace or whatever. Other friends do. There's a whole bunch of synchronicities around white doves that occur during the day. We go to the land, and there's a group of beings who go to the altar on the land. And at that time, and it was really a series of openings, I think, that happened during that trip, but at that time, there was a major opening at the altar on the Temple Canyon land, on that, I think it was a Sunday. And I felt it occur, and I was actually guided to come down from the altar and turn and take a photo at a very specific time, and that photo is called Light Over Temple Canyon. A lot of people have seen the photo in the pathway. It's this amazing, perfect Star of David. The sun looks like a perfect Star of David. It just all came out right at the time. But I'm having this sense of something having occurred, and I have this sense of it happening in the invisible realms. But what's the proof going to be in the real world? If it's occurred, then this type of thing should occur, is the way I think about it. And I sense the magnitude of the opening, the massiveness of it, like Joshua has said. And I think, no, this is going to take about 6 months. I just have an intuition about this, and I talk with Joshua. It's going to take about 6 months, and in 6 months, the shit is really going to hit the fan. Because there's a huge wave of what could be called heavenly frequency coming in, and anyone still invested in duality, invested in the darkness, in the belief in evil, in good and evil, the belief in it, yeah? Not necessarily the practicing in it, but the belief in the conflict. They're going to be really challenged by this wave of light, of love coming in, this uncompromising wave of light and love. And so I make this prediction. I predict that if this is true, because I like to have verification, I sound like I believe all this stuff, but I'm still looking for verification, and I still live in doubt a lot of the time, even though I'm talking, and I know in these videos I'm talking increasing what sounds like wacky stuff. I'm talking about Atlantis and all this other stuff, right? I only do it if I've had confirmation step by step by step, step by step by step, as much as you can in the spiritual world. But I'm willing to just pursue it anyhow. So one way I confirm is I make a prediction. And if the prediction comes true, then I think that's more viable, more reason for me to believe this extraordinary story that I'm following. So I say in 6 months, things are really going to get wild in this world. I mean, the shit's going to hit the fan. And that prediction was one of the reasons that 6 months later I was able to predict, and it was 6 months to the day -1. We're 1 day off from exactly 6 months from that day at the land that Donald Trump was elected president of the United States. Well, whatever your politics, you've got to see that as a major change in what's happening in the world. The shit hits the fan big time for somebody and for everybody. And it also made perfect sense to me that throughout the campaign, if people looked at what was gaining resonance with voters, the biggest applause line, and the one that he kept relying on, folding back on when he needed an applause, was we're going to build a wall. And now it was about they talk about the immigrants, right? But see, from my metaphysical perspective, I don't believe that's what's happening. I think what's happening is a lot of beings who are resistant to this idea of, only love being real. Yeah, they're still believing in duality. Those beings are wanting a wall built to keep out this new light that's entering. And I will share now that is true in another way with the coronavirus. Because at the beginning of this year, something else came in. But that's another story. But it's 2016, and we're on the land, and this beautiful unfoldment's occurring. And we actually, Chuck and a couple other friends, go off, and I do a channeling at the time. And it's a channeling which Yeshua says, those who are dedicated to me, whether it be what appear to be separate groups like Shiny Crystal or JM's Grout or whatever, they don't need to worry about it. They don't need to worry about an apparent split having occurred, because there's no split in me, he says. There's no split in Joshua. And I thought that was a beautiful message. So just to conclude that day, I'm coming back and had all these amazing experiences, and it all started with the white dove. Now, I didn't see a white dove, a white pigeon maybe, or whatever, but I didn't see one ever before or after in Santa Fe besides that day. So I'm kind of overwhelmed by all these amazing things that have happened, and I get back to the hotel. I think this beautiful day's occurred, a day of peace, a day of joining in peace, and a profound new light coming into the world. And I leave the hotel to go back to the hotel I was staying at the very end of the day, and there on the top of the telephone pole is the white pigeon, white dove, waiting for me. And right when I get to it, it flies off. And it's the last time I saw it. Just that day, the day of peace. And may every day be a day of peace as we move forward into what I think is a new world being birthed. And Joshua is orchestrating the physics of this new light entering. And we welcome it. We welcome it with our hearts and with our whole body. And I was told recently with our solar plexus too, so we can experiment with that. But the idea that a new light is coming, making heaven and earth one thing. Thank you for listening.